Hi everybody, this is Mark from Mark's Mandalas, and this video is going to show you how you can clean up mistakes to reapply a new dot. I'm going to be showing examples on a ceramic tile, a rock, and a canvas, and they each have a different surface and a little different approach in some cases. Pretty much in all the cases, Q-tips are your best friend, but not just regular Q-tips, as they're the cotton is too loose and big to get into some of the areas that you want to clean up the paint with. And I have two different styles here. I have both of them listed on my website, marksmandalas.com, under the shop tab. And they both have their benefits. The one that I use most of the time is this one. They're both Fran Wilson is the brand, but it's the configuration that I like most. And these ones are pointed on both ends, and getting into small areas is very beneficial. You have a better control of soaking the paint up to be able to continue on with your piece. The other one that I use probably about 25% of the time tends to be for larger dots to clean up, and it has the pointed end on one side but more of a paddle end on the other, which helps for mopping up larger sized dots. And I'll show you an example of that as well. And you're going to find that in more porous or I guess unsmooth surfaces like rocks and canvas, very often you're going to be incorporating a brush to cover up any remaining residue depending on what color dot you're cleaning up. I'm going to be doing white on both of these, and the tile I've actually already begun to do just a little bit of art on here, just to give you an example of the need for the precision of these pointed tools. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to intentionally make a mistake in this last spot here in the 16 dot pattern, and I'm going to show you how to clean it up and then go ahead and reapply a new dot. Then I'm going to go on with some larger dots on the rock and the tile. So let's go ahead and get started with some green paint. I was using a number 2 tool to apply those dots, and as you can see, I mean, there's my thumb compared to them, so they're pretty small dots. There's not a lot of space in there if you have to clean up a mistake. So let's see, what am I gonna do here? I'm gonna get in a bit of a hurry, I think, and let's go ahead and have a slip. So yeah, that doesn't really conform to the rest of the dots in there. So how am I going to get that out of there without messing everything else up? Well, first off, let me wipe my tool off, and I'm going to start off. It's not a real big dot, so I'm going to go ahead and just use the Q-tip that has the 2 sharp ends, because that's going to be the size I'm going to need to get in there. And I got my magnifying glasses on right now, and so I'm looking through them, which for these small dots makes it very helpful. And hopefully you're going to get a good view. And I tend to twist the Q-tip a little bit when I'm soaking the paint up. At least the first little bit, and I try to kind of bring it out, and it thins the paint out a little bit. And I usually paint on harder, smoother surfaces like this tile, which tend to be easier to clean up mistakes than canvas or rocks. And as you can see, it's all cleaned up. There's a little bit of paint on this end, and now, just for the fun of it, let me go ahead and do this last dot here before we move on to the rock. All right, now I'm ready to go ahead and continue on with the next circle of dots and complete that later on here. But for now, let's go on to surface number 2, which is this rock. And these pieces I used in a previous video showing how to find center. And now I'm going to go ahead and mess them up. Let's go ahead and I'll grab a number 8 tool, and I think I'm going to go ahead and be difficult here. And I'm going to use white because it's going to be showing about why I have this paintbrush handy here. And I apologize if I move out of frame occasionally. So let's see, I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm just going to go ahead and do the same old slip, I think. You know, it's like that's not a very round dot right there. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to wipe my tool off on the baby wipe. And this is a little bit larger spill. So to start off with, I'm going to grab my other style Q-tip with this paddle end. And since there's no other dots around also, I don't have to worry about this paint running into another dot and making me have to do a even bigger cleanup and remove additional dots. But I want to kind of sweep into the main area of the paint itself, and I kind of twist this at the same time as well. And you'll find that especially on the rocks and the canvas, the sooner you can clean that mess up, the better. And now that I have, and you also want to be careful too, that if you think you have extra area, you can wipe up something on this Q-tip to try to maximize its usage. You got to be careful there's no paint on there, because if you think there is, I'm going to go ahead and mess this up again, you think that you have a clean spot and you don't, you try to wipe, well, you just smeared more on there by accident. So don't be stingy with the Q-tips. I know this side here is clean, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to go around the border of this and kind of sweep it into the middle and then twist and lift a little bit. And this side is clean here too, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just rub on this a little bit, but you're going to notice that that's not real pretty there. And so this is where the old paintbrush comes in, and you're going to have to go ahead and paint that surface again. So I'm going to open up the black paint. I'm going to, let's see here. And it might not match exactly. I spray paint my rocks, so there might be a little bit difference in sheen, but when this dries, it's going to be pretty darn close. And then when you cover it with your artwork, it's going to be pretty much invisible. And especially on a rock, when you seal it afterwards, it's not going to be noticeable. So I'm just, I didn't want to have a big old clump of paint on there, and so I'm just spreading this out a little bit. And that'll dry, and it's going to match pretty close, and you can go ahead and remark your center dot from the previous video, and give it a try again. And now I'm going to go ahead and mess up the canvas here, I think. And I really personally have no experience on canvas. I've always enjoyed trying to use outside the box things to paint on. And actually, I much prefer a tile over a canvas personally. There's no right or wrong decision on that. It's just, I don't like the texture of canvas, and I also don't like having to take the time to do all the prep work on there. I just want to get right to painting, and so the tiles are inexpensive and they're easy to clean up mistakes on there. But if you're using a canvas, they're extremely popular. Let me show you. Let's see, I grabbed too small of a tool there for that. Let's go ahead and let's get a bigger tool. And I'm actually gonna, let's see, we'll just use a number 12, and let's use white. And this is gonna be very similar to the rock as far as cleaning up your mistake. And I'm gonna go ahead and just put a dot on there. And then let's just do a number 3. do a different color just because. We'll do a purple. I'm just going to use number 3, but it doesn't really matter. This is just for the sake of demonstration. And you're like, uh-oh, that's, you find out that you don't like your spacing on there. So you want to go ahead and remove that. And it's a smaller dot, and I think the smaller dots, you don't need that paddle. And you got to be careful with that paddle side because you can end up running into another dot. And in fact, let me go ahead and put another dot close to this one. There's no symmetry in this at all. I'm just wanting to get another dot close to the other ones to show you what I mean as far as if you try to use a paddle to get that middle dot out, you really risk wiping part of another dot and smudging it. So you want to make sure that you use the proper end for the situation. And I'm going to go ahead and just go back to my double pointed tip ones because I don't need that paddle end. And these ones with the double end that are pointed are actually a little less expensive than the ones with the paddle end as well. So it's kind of an added bonus that these are the ones that you tend to use more often, or at least I do. And like I said, as far as I try to spin this around in place on top of the dot, and it tends to soak up more of the paint. And you can see there's a pretty clean area there. That's got a lot of paint on it. That's clean right there. As long as you're careful about that, you can use the other side as well. And that darker color, when you reapply another dot on there, that should be just fine. It's primarily the lighter colors. And I have the white there, but let me go ahead and throw on a yellow. We'll just do number 5, a little bigger, that same spot. Wipe my tool off, and we're going to grab another one of these tools, or one of these. Actually, the other end of that Q-tip I think is still clean. Yes, it is. Another thing with the paddle end ones, if you're not going to use the paddle end, you tend to have a whole bunch of pointy end ones that have paint on them when the paddle end ones are clean, and you don't want to get them confused, so it's nice having the 2 different options for Q-tips. And let's go ahead and try to clean this yellow one out of here. And you can see that there's, even though it's a small dot, there is that lighter residue on there. And even if you end up getting a dot back in the right location, you're going to have this little extra bit right there. So that's where I'm going to recommend that you go ahead and do just a little bit of covering up with just a little bit of paint. And I think I'm using too large of a brush for this demonstration, but it's just to give you an idea on how to take care of these little whoopses. And I'm just going to cover that up with a little bit of black paint, and you're going to see it at first, but when that dries, it's going to flatten up. And if you're going to put any kind of a sealer over your work when it's done, it's going to even the sheen of the entire piece out. That's why whenever I am painting something, I don't like to use gloss paint because it has less adhesion than a flat or a satin paint. And if you're going to put a gloss clear coat or resin over the top of it, it's going to balance that sheen out on everything anyway. So there's no real benefit to using a gloss paint if you're going to be doing a clear coat over the top of it anyhow. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, please like and share it. And if you like my other videos, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. Until next time, rock on.